What is going on, my beautiful LARPers and LARPettes? Today we're going to go over the new Canik SFX Rival Steel, or the Rival S for short. Before I get into it though, what is my relationship with Canik? They have sent me, a firearm in the past, which is the original Rival, and they did send this one out for review for free. I'm not getting paid to do this review, just want to get that out of the way. So let's go right ahead, straight into the box, guys. Let's see what we're getting here. So right off the bat here, you get this Pelican style hard case that has the good old Canik logo there, and they have their SFX Rival S right at the front. It is a very solid, nice case. I don't really feel like this is a cheap quality case, so you'll definitely be super happy with this if you're gonna travel with it and stuff like that. And I'm pretty sure this is what they're kind of aiming this whole package towards, is a person that's probably just gonna buy a gun and go out and start competing with it. So right here, you already get two back straps, a large and a medium. The one that comes on the firearm itself is the small, so it's good that I didn't have to change that, because my hands are small and I usually swap it out to the small back straps anyway. So then you get two magazines. You have one inside of the case and then one's in the gun. And you also have two aluminum base plates. And these aluminum base plates, you can choose whether to have the aluminum or the plastic ones that already come on the magazines. But I usually switch to the aluminums just because it helps you load a little bit easier when you have a mag well attached. So if you look in here, this is the plastic one. You can see that it's pretty flush with the mag well. You can't really see it protruding any. And if you look at the aluminum base plate here, it protrudes a little bit. So usually when I do my reloads with a mag well, if I'm smacking that guy in there, I want a little protrusion so it can help me push that magazine up into the mag well, as opposed to this one. If I kind of don't get a good purchase on it, I guess, it won't seat all the way if I don't fully press that all the way in there. So you get two plastic. Now you get the cool toolkit. I think Canik has the best toolkits that come with the gun. Your tools in there, you get switches. This is new here, so you get the tool hex tools, you get your screws, you get two mag releases, and you also get this little guy here. At first I thought this was a tool for like the front sight or the rear sight. I'll get right into that just in a second right now. Alrighty, so if you pull this foam up, you got a lot more stuff on the bottom. So you get your cleaning kit, your takedown tools, you get a pretty nice holster. So this holster was kind of being a little annoying for me when I was running some drills. So if you don't fully release the tension on this guy, it'll kind of hang up on you when you're trying to draw. So if you don't draw straight up, it will hang up and act like it's locked in there for some reason. Next, inside the case, you get your mag loader, you have a trigger lock, and you get 5 optic plates. Now I want to point out something that I'm really happy that Canik did. So when they released the Rival, right? Let me put this box to the side. So when this one originally came out, it came with 4 optic plates, and for this color only though. So the gold and the silver one, or gray one, sorry. And the black one came with 5 optic plates, and the 5th optic plate was an optic plate that I guess was for an RMR, and you had a built-in rear sight into the optic plate. Those of you that chose this gun and saw that the dark side version, the all black version, had an extra optic plate, you're like, hey, what the heck, man, why would you just skip on the gray and gold guy? So on the new Canik Rival S, they are now giving you this rear optic plate here with the rear iron sight built into that guy, which is really cool that Canik is listening to their customers. So there you go. You now get 5 optic plates with your new Rival S. And on the topic of optic plates, I want to talk about that little piece that I pointed out earlier. So that piece that I thought that was a front sight or a sight tool is actually a charging handle. You kind of could screw it right onto the optic plates themselves on the left or the right side. Once you put that optic plate on, you have a little charging handle that you can put on the left or right. A lot of people that compete will probably use that to charge their gun faster, or if you don't want to mess the zero up on your optic when you're trying to rack it. A lot of people, they'll kind of come over and grab the optic and rack it from the optic. you might potentially rock that optic loose off the plate itself. So it's nice to have this little charging handle on there. So awesome addition, Canik. I'm gonna kind of just go over the top slide very quickly because these two slides are basically identical. There's nothing different about it. You get the same sights, you get the same slide, you get the same barrels, hopefully the same barrels. I'll point something out, right? Sorry, I didn't mean to flag you even though you're a camera. Everything will fit on these slides and they will mix and match with each other. And I'll show you that now really quick. So I just basically switched the slides onto each other's frames. This one seems like it's fully functional. I didn't shoot them out at the range, but everything that I'm feeling here feels like it's gonna function. Now, with the Rival S on the original polymer Rival frame, it's just locked there in that position. I don't know why it's just locked there. Maybe I'm doing something wrong, but this one just locks there in place and this one works completely fine. Now, the reason why I was kind of talking about I hope the barrels are the same is because if I don't want to pull these apart on video, so I'm going to go ahead and just swap the barrels out really quick. All right, now that I swapped the barrels, so this whole Canik Rival S slide was on this polymer frame with the Canik Rival S barrel, but all I did was take out the barrel and swap them around again. So now I have the original Canik Rival barrel on the Rival S frame slide and the Rival frame. Hopefully I'm not confusing you. But when I put the original barrel in here, it functions now in this slide, which is weird because now they both function because this one is the Rival S barrel in the Rival slide on the Rival S frame. I'm not sure if the Rival S barrel in the Rival S slide on the original Rival frame has some type of tolerance issue with the barrel in that configuration. And they both look really, really cool with all those color swaps. So as far as the slides go, again, just went through it really quick, swapped stuff around. But if you want to get more in detail on what's exactly going on with the slide, go ahead and check out the original Rival video that I put up. Now moving on to the major difference, which is the frame. The frame is all steel now, but before I get into a couple of other minute differences, I'm going to show you what's exactly the same between the two. So they are both basically from, I guess, this point on, from the trigger guard on, it's exactly the same shape-wise. So the only reason I'm pointing that out is because the shape of this one and this one here are going to allow you to use the same exact holsters. So another similarity between the two is the lever here that you take down. It's not exactly a lever. I don't know the exact name for it, guys. But the takedown little button here to push down is exactly the same. And the slide release, slide lock is exactly the same. And they are still both fully ambidextrous. Trigger is exactly the same. Okay. So the Rival S feels a little bit more, smoother. This one has a little, it's a really, really nice trigger. So these Caniks have probably some of the best factory triggers that I've ever felt. On this one, you can feel the little bit of drag on the plastic itself. You can hear it. And the reset, it still has that like polymer drag, if you know what I'm saying. On the Rival S, it's just a smooth pull back and a nice reset. I almost feel like this is a little bit lighter than this guy here. If I'm comparing the two, this one does not feel as tuned as this one, if I was gonna say that. So now they kept the same exact mag releases and the same mag wells. Now let's go ahead and point out the differences. Again, aside from the steel frame, which is the weight, which I'll get into that in a second, the way the back straps are designed are a complete wraparound, basically going almost to the front of the grip portion. And on the Rival, it's just this slide-on back strap here. So you take this roll pin out and you slide it off and slide a different size on. This one, you take these two screws on this side and this side, and you kind of pop that off and pop a new one on. I do want to point out the ergonomics on it as well. On the Canik Rival, it's a little bit more of a V kind of shape. So if you're grabbing the gun from the back, you can feel the spine of it is a little bit thinner than the Rival S. The Rival S has that traditional rounded off, feels like basically every other rounded off gun that I felt. Now that I feel them both in my hands, I do prefer this one a lot more than this one here. Now the texturing is pretty aggressive on this. I wouldn't change up the aggressiveness on that, but I do want to point out that the texturing on the Rival S looks different than the original Rival. So on the original Rival, you have the same texturing basically on the side panels and on the front. On the front of that trigger guard, you have these lines that go across, which on the Canik Rival S, you kind of have this grip texturing similar to a 1911 style, which I like more than the Canik Rival. On the Canik Rival, I don't really put my finger here or anything like that, but if I did, I would think that this one is a little, yeah, it's definitely more aggressive than that one over there. Aside from that, one of the quirks that I have for me personally on these two are the lack of texturing at the top portion here where your thumb kind of rests if you're shooting one-handed. And it's the same that goes on for this guy here. This guy doesn't have it, and it's a little bit smoother than this one over here, but I kind of grip my gun in this area anyway. So the way I grip my gun is super high. So pretty much here, and I'm kind of putting tension on the top of the meaty portion of my palm there. So I'm kind of doing this motion here when I'm gripping the gun, and I'm not really gripping it like a traditional grip where you kind of just have it down here and use the side panels. But anyways, I wish that there was more texturing up here. And the downside to having a steel gun or a metal gun is the fact that you can't do any type of aftermarket stippling on that guy, as opposed to a polymer gun. I could just send this off and they could just stipple this whole gun for me. And yeah, that's gonna be a sucky situation for somebody that kind of grips their gun the way I do. But you can always put grip tape on there and just swap out the grip tape whenever you want. So another subtle difference on this Canik Rival S is this little textured piece that's in front of your slide control. This textured piece on the original Rival is just texturing that's molded into the frame itself, so you cannot take that out. But on the Rival S, it's like a little metal plate that's screwed into the left and the right side. And the texturing on that is definitely more aggressive than the one on the original Rival S. If you're not into competition, I'll explain why this is cool. So the fact that these little pieces can be removed are a huge plus, just because a lot of competition shooters will put a ledge that they can rest their thumb on to give themselves more leverage to keep that gun flatter. It's cool that you can take that off and you could potentially get a ledge that you can buy to screw on and keep your thumb right on there. I think Canik hit it out of the park with that. Now, I think that pretty much does it for the basic description of what's going on with this lower frame. There are a couple differences between them, but the major difference is going to be the weight. Let me bring out the scale and show you what the actual weights are right now. Now, I'll just use the polymer faceplate on there. So, original Rival, let me go ahead and weigh it. 1 pound, 13.4 ounces. And the Rival S, gun's empty, 2 pounds, 10.3 ounces. Basically what, like a 1 pound difference between the two? Yeah, probably like a 1 pound difference between the two. But now I want to bring out some other guns that I feel that are kind of in the same category. I feel like these are kind of the more popular guns of competition. Not this one though. Not the 1911. So this is a Kimber 1911. Probably was popular in competition at one point, but I just want to throw it in here just so you can see the weight on this one compared to the Rival S. So this is 2 pounds, 8.8 ounces. The Rival S is heavier than the 1911. Next one on the list is the 6 Hour X5 Legion. This is the tungsten infused frame. I don't know where my magazine is, guys, but we're gonna go for it anyways. 2 pounds, 7.9 ounces. So I feel like with the magazine in there, let me see. I feel like this is probably a similar. That's the aluminum one. Sorry about that. 2 pounds, 10.9 ounces. I feel that the Sig Sauer X5 Legion, tungsten infused, and the Rival S are pretty much going to be almost neck and neck when it comes to weight. And I can feel it right now. You can feel that they're definitely almost the same weight. Next gun is the CZ Shadow 2. This is the Acu Shadow. Let me just go ahead and weigh this for you guys as well. 2 pounds, 9.3 ounces. So just shy of the Canik rival. And the last one on the list is the Walther Q5 SF. So the steel frame version of the Walther Q5. Now, I feel like this gun here and the Canik Rival S are going to be the two guns that are going to compete against each other in terms of how identical they are. So if you'd like me to do a video versus between these two, let me know in the comments below. But let me go ahead and weigh it for you guys. 2 pounds, 11.2 ounces. I feel like without this metal base plate, because I did put the plastic base plate in the Canik, I feel like without this metal base plate, they would basically be identical, guys. Now, don't quote me on that, but I feel like these two guns are very, very similar. So, the Canik Rival S in terms of weight is very, very close to the weight in all these other guns that I have on the table here. All right, now that I went through all the details on the firearm, what was my experience like when I went out to originally shoot it? So when I went out, I shot 500 rounds to this gun. It fired every single round, but I did have a little hiccup, I guess, or not. It wasn't really an issue. It was kind of like a hiccup. So when I would go out and shoot, I would load a mag, and if I had the slide locked back this way right here and let it go just like that, it would chamber fine. But if I were to manually do it, and I wouldn't stroke it all the way back. Now, if I were to put force in it and stroke it all the way back so that slide can slingshot forward, it would kind of hang up halfway there, so the round would kind of be at an angle and be stuck up halfway into the chamber. Now, I haven't had that issue with this Canik here. I could just rack that gun however I wanted and it would rack around in there. But with the Rival S, for some reason, there was quite a few times where I would rack it and it would kind of get hung up if I didn't kind of manhandle that slide back. And I especially had that issue when I would come up and try to rack it from the front serrations, because the strength in my hands aren't really made to go this way, I guess. It's made to go this way. So when I would bring the magazine up and do this here, I would kind of short stroke it where the round would get caught up. So don't know if that was an actual issue, but I'm just gonna go ahead and say it's user error, because it did not happen at all when I would actually bring that slide all the way back where I was supposed to and put it in normally. But other than that, it worked completely fine. It was super, super nice to shoot. Now, just to point out, these two guns, you can definitely feel the difference, because obviously this one's steel, but this one isn't heavy to the point where it feels unbalanced. There's some guns out there that feel kind of unbalanced, so the weight of it is sometimes in the front. So when you're shooting a gun that's heavier from the front, you tend to shoot, the slide racks back, then when it comes forward, that weight kind of dips you down where you have to kind of pull that gun up. So you're doing a little bit more work when the gun's in recoil. You're trying to keep it in a specific spot. But this one is very balanced. It doesn't feel heavy to the point where it's shaking around on me a lot, which was a huge plus. Now I'm gonna go ahead and say this, guys. I do not compete on a professional level. I do not compete as much as I want to, but I have competed in the past, and I continue to compete every now and then at local matches and stuff like that. My experience has been a very fun one in competition, but I'm not going to act like I'm an expert competitor and be like, yeah, this is the gun right here that you need to get for this specific match. I don't want to act like I'm a person that I'm not, guys. Aside from that, I was just trying to figure out for myself, if I were to take these two guns and actually compete with them, which one would I prefer? Which I prefer one that's lighter, or which I prefer one that's heavier? And I went out there and put them under time for a couple of drills. 1.35. 2 shots, 2.81. 3 3.97. And I also did one when I was comparing the two side by side in terms of how fast my draw was and how fast I was able to get 2 shots on a steel target. I think I had the steel target at about like 10 yards or so, like that. That was a 1.15. But that 2 rounds was 1.14. I also wanted to see if the weight of the gun was helping me keep that muzzle or that gun returning to 0. I was definitely able to keep the steel Canik on target a lot easier than it was to keep the original Canik. And I also want to show you a side-by-side comparison between the recoil and the muzzle flip between the two, so I'll add that right now. And if I were to choose between these two to take out to compete, I would definitely go with the Rival S. With that said though, there is a price jump between the two. So this one is about $680 and this one is $899, so 900 bucks. So there's a $200 and something price difference between the two, and you just got to figure out if that $200 and something price difference is worth getting the steel over the polymer. Do I think you should get steel over the polymer for $200 more? Personally, yes. There's a couple of upgrades in there that kind of make it worth your while. So now that this one's out, I would skip straight to this guy here. But not saying that you can't put in work with this guy. So Nils Jonassen absolutely destroys people with these guns here. This gun specifically here, he helped create this gun here, and it's crazy the way that guy shoots. Regardless of whichever one you're gonna choose, if you put in the work, guys, it's not gonna freaking matter. So as long as you're putting in your reps, dry firing 100% helps you out. I do have 3 kids. I do not have time to get out to the range as often as I can, but I do spend a lot of time dry firing. The only thing that I needed to do was get used to that recoil, because again, with dry fire, you can't really shoot live rounds and control recoil. But dry fire, guys, go out and train as often as you can, and regardless of whichever one you choose, you'll be able to wreck shit all day. So I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching my videos. Trying to get as many out for you guys as I can. SHOT Show's coming up. I'm gonna get a lot of footage there. I appreciate you all. Love you. Catch you in the next one.